Hi, I'm Johnathan Thurston, and today I had a yarn about family, culture, and what I'm most passionate about on Marlee Me, on the number one podcast, Marlee Me.
That's it.
Because of my upbringing and how intertwined my life has been with rugby league, I'm not the type to get starstruck by athletes that we work with. Not because I don't admire their skill or acknowledge the impact of their achievements, but because I know at the end of the day, they're normal people just like you and me. But when I joined Nine's wide world of sports, I was reminded there are one or two exceptions to that rule. One or two people from the world of rugby league that would freak me out just to be in the room with them. And one of them is my guest today, Johnathan Thurston, widely considered one of the best to ever play the game and recently inducted into the NRL's Hall of Fame. Well, he's an icon. For that field goal in the 2015 grand final, that boot that could swing a conversion back like a boomerang from the sideline, and of course, for that laugh. JT, to Aboriginal kids who grew up watching him just like me, was who we all wanted to be. So away from this famous footy career, who is JT? Today, we talk about family, fatherhood, and getting comfortable enough in his skin to speak up and be loud and proud as an Aboriginal man. This episode was recorded on the lands of the Turrbal and Yagara peoples. JT, it's a pleasure to be here and for you to make the time to have this conversation with me fresh off a plane.
Yes.
First of all, how are you feeling? You're good? You're ready to have a yarn?
Certainly am. The plane was delayed 40 minutes, but got here in time, so yeah, keen to rip in.
Well, I'm sure you know this question as well as I do. When blackfellas meet, that first thing we ask each other, what's your name, who's your mob, and where are you from?
Yeah, so I grew up here in Brisbane. My mum's a proud Gungari woman from Mitchell, which is southwest Queensland. It's about 45 minutes past Roma. So that's where our family's from. Mum grew up there. Mum's one of 13. 9 brothers and 3 sisters. So always had uncles and aunties growing up and living with us. And it was quite a childhood and upbringing, surrounded by family.
When we talk about our mob, our tribes, and like you said, kind of where you grew up, we're talking about family, connection to country. Where most feels like home to you?
I'd probably have to say Townsville now.
Yeah.
Been up there for nearly 20 years. My 4 daughters are born and raised there. Married my wife. Met my wife up there, so I'd have to say Townsville's home. I still have a strong connection to Brisbane. A lot of my mum's family lives here. My dad's a Kiwi as well, so I've got Kiwi blood running through my veins, but I feel more of a connection to mum's side of the family and our indigenous culture. So that's where I feel at home.
I think sometimes people get confused or a little bit taken aback when they meet Aboriginal people who have 2 cultures. Like myself, my dad's a blackfella and my mum's white, and I've had even my white family members be like, you don't acknowledge our side of the family, and it's kind of hard to explain, but can you, I don't know, how do you reflect on why you feel more connected to your mum's side of the family?
I think it was just the upbringing that we had. My younger brother does traditional dancing. My older brother from my mum's side, from her previous relationship, he does, plays the didgeridoo, very strong culturally. So, always grew up knowing that I was Aboriginal, but didn't really delve too much deeper into that until 2010, which was the Indigenous Allstars. So, that had a big effect on me when the Indigenous Allstars come out. But, strong culturally, always knew I was Aboriginal. Dad was Kiwi. And, growing up with so many uncles and aunties, they kept you grounded, but they also kept you strong culturally as well.
Yeah, tell me about that upbringing here. We're in Brizzy right now, which is quite fitting. Yeah, what was it like being around family like that?
Yeah, it was awesome. My uncles would always play footy with me in the backyard. They'd always play cricket with me in the backyard, and if I lost, I'd cry and go back into mum, and mum would, you want to play with the big boys, get out there and keep playing. So I think that's where it all stemmed from. Had really good mates as well. So, in those days you could jump on your bike and just had to make sure that you're home before dark, and if you weren't, you'd have to call home and let them know that you're staying for dinner. So yeah, had a cool upbringing, great memories with friends, uncles and aunties, and yeah, Brisbane had a really big impact on me.
So do you feel like growing up, I don't know, sport was always connected to culture?
Yeah, definitely. Dad played local footy, pub footy. Uncles played local footy as well, local touch as well. So at Whites Hill, they were always, had teams. So, yeah, sport played a big role in my upbringing, along with our culture. So, yeah, it goes hand in hand, I think.
You said you always knew you were Aboriginal, but it changed kind of as you got a bit older and your experience. We'll talk about Allstars in a minute, but when you were younger, what did being Aboriginal mean? Did it mean having that big family, or what was it where you kind of were like, yeah, that's what it's about?
Yeah, well, all I was taught growing up as a kid was the arrival of the first fleet. When mum and my aunties and uncles didn't delve too much deeper into our family history, so always knew I was Aboriginal, celebrated NAIDOC week. My brother would do the dancing. My older brother would play the didgeridoo. My cousins, strong culturally, Aboriginal dancing, indigenous dancing. So always knew that. But, yeah, it wasn't until delved a little bit deeper into the history of this nation and what our culture's endured, but also started to ask some more questions about, mum's upbringing and things like that. And so it had a big effect on me, but still learning.
Well, what did your mum tell you when you first asked those questions?
The Indigenous Allstars, we did an exercise with Chris Sarah. He said, if you know much about your family history and culture, stand at that end of the room. If you don't know much, stand at that end of the room. So I rang mum after that and said, I want to go out to Mitchell. Can you take me out to Mitchell and spend a weekend out there? She's like, oh, that's men's business. And I was like, what? So like here I am learning. I was like, she was like, your grandfather has to, pass that knowledge alongside your uncle. So I rang my grandfather. I took my grandfather, I think about 4 of my uncles and about 8 or 9 of my cousins. We hired a bus here from Brizzy and drove out, and we did traditional dancing out there, met all of Pop's family, and it just had a real calming impact on me, calming influence on me. And I remember ringing mum when we arrived to let her know that we've arrived safely and we're meeting, Pop's family. And I said to mum, I feel like I've been here before, but I hadn't. And mum said, I took you out there when you were a baby. And that just blew my mind. 27 years later, I was on mum's land, my mum's country, and I had this connection to that land where my mum and my family are from. So, it had a massive impact on me. And then, the more I started to learn about the history of the nation and learn a bit more about mum and dad. Growing up, I suppose Dad came over here in the late 70s. Met Mum in 80, I think. Had me in 83, but being a mixed race relationship during that time, encountered a lot of racism being a mixed race. So, can remember some of the violence that Dad used to have. From things that people would say, the nasty things that they would say. So, but it's a shame, but that's the life that they lived, and they're certainly stronger for it. And it just goes to show that if you love each other, no matter what people say, you can get through those nasty times.
We know that, unfortunately, racism is something that exists everywhere, and it exists in our game. And I wonder, is it something that you ever, during your playing days, realised was there?
No, so I can't remember being racially vilified by any of the opposition. I was talking to other players before my time that said, that was part of footy, and what goes on the field stays on the field. But I feel as though that's changed. There's no place for racism in our game or in society. So, I can't remember being racially vilified, but I've certainly heard the stories, especially from some of the indigenous players that came before us. Likes of Dean Witters as well. That's experienced that. So, it's a shame, but it's out there. It's still out there, and we need to educate people why it is so hurtful.
The Allstars concept, I feel like, was such a big changing point, I think, for the game, and even just like the conversations I was having as a kid watching it with friends and whatever. What was it like to be a part of that? Like, for you, it changed your whole trajectory and understanding your identity. Yeah,
it had a massive effect on me. Like I said, I always knew I was Aboriginal, but I didn't delve any deeper into that. So, we've got the concept right with the Māori All-Stars now, and, I've got to give credit to the other boys that played in those games to, get it off the ground. So, I got to play alongside Preston Campbell, who was his baby, still is his baby. So, it's great to see how far it has come since 2010. Like I said, we've got the concept right, but, you still hear of players coming into camp not knowing much about their family history, not knowing much about their culture. But with the people that we have in and around the game, they're starting to help those boys, understand their culture and also learn more about their family history as well. So, I think the number one thing for players and people in general, when things aren't going great, I think it's due to loss of culture, not knowing who you are, not knowing what you stand for. Not knowing the leadership, the traits that you want to display in your community, in your school. So, I think once people start to understand who they are, their identity, they certainly become a stronger person in society.
How does it feel? How did it feel to you when you were running out there representing your culture? I mean, you've represented on every level, but how does that compare?
It's totally different to representing the Maroons or representing your country. Our culture is the oldest living culture in the world. Our ancestors has walked these grounds. They passed that knowledge on to the next generation, and to be able to represent our culture on the biggest stage in that game, we're now starting to inspire the next generation of our culture. We're inspiring those kids that, just because they come from Yarrabah, they can't, they can be a doctor, they can be a police officer, no matter where their upbringing is or where they come from. We want them to be proud of who they are. We want them to be proud of where they come from, and we want to inspire them to go out there and change the world.
What did it mean to your family when that concept came through? Like all those aunties and uncles and stuff.
So many tickets.
That's all I buy.
But it was a huge, I think, just proud. It was proud. Like I said, I didn't experience racism, but having a deeper understanding of the history of our nation, what my parents endured, what my aunties and uncles endured, what my grandfather endured, from the stolen generation, all that type of stuff. The referendum, I think it was put us on, up there to go, you know what? We are deadly, we are black, and we can change the world. So, I think it was just pure pride from my family, being able to represent them in this game.
Today, you're still in the public eye, you're in the media, and I think you know, there still aren't many blackfellas in mainstream media. It's you and I here in the 9 kind of wide water sports team, and there's a few others all across the place, but we're still like in the minority. And I think then when stuff happens that has to do with Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander people, you're one of the first people, right, who is asked to comment on things and whatever. And I think it felt so emotional to me, and I think a lot of people, was seeing how affected you were in Las Vegas this year.
Yeah.
Like, I could see how emotional you were, and in a way that felt really raw.
Before we get into that, we've just got some breaking news that's coming out of Allegiant Stadium. There's been an official complaint. Ezra Mem has made an official complaint, and we are hearing it was racial in nature, something that was directed at Ezra from Spencer Lenu. What are your initial reactions when you are hearing that there has been a complaint of this nature?
A little bit emotional about it, that in this day and age that one of our players would be allegedly saying what he said. So after coming here, 40,000 people, 2 massive cracking games, and now we're dealing with this. We just didn't need it after round 1.
And I think it's probably the most I've seen you speak out like that, kind of. And what was that like?
Yeah, like I said, having a deep understanding of the history of our nation and what our culture's endured, that's brought up many scars for our elders. And the reason why I said it should have been 12 weeks is because out of all the words in the dictionary that you could use, he's used racial abuse. Like, that just didn't sit well with me. And you know what? The NRL got indigenous round. The NRL, we got the indigenous Allstars. They've got, indigenous people working in the NRL. I just thought it was a real good opportunity for the NRL to come out and go, I know they did come out and say, it doesn't stand in our game, but I just thought, the punishment didn't fit the crime.
You mentioning thinking about your elders, that's who I always think about in that moment. And when we are reminded, we've come a long way, but there's still a fair way to go.
Yeah.
You just go, our aunties and uncles, our grandparents who have had to watch all of this happen and fight. Like, I don't know if in the discussions, I think that's lost sometimes. Like, that's who hurts, you know, more than anything. Like, you just want it to not be the case anymore. Yeah,
well, what are we, 3.5% of the population? Our culture was nearly wiped out from colonisation. So we are survivors, we are fighters, and that's what I mean. Like, it's about inspiring the next generation to go out there and change the world for the better, and we need to do that through education. We need to make sure that we're giving the next generation of our kids opportunities to be able to do that, and hopefully for my kids, my 4 daughters, that if they're the right person for a job or for a play or whatever, that they get it because they're the right person. And I think that's everyone plays a part in that, and everyone plays a part in being able to educate our kids, educate our non-Indigenous kids about the history of this nation. Australia has a black history. It's we were the first people on this land, and the truth needs to come out. Most Australians are pretty empathetic, so I think if we can educate them at a young age of the history of our nation, then I think it'll change the views of non-Indigenous Australians.
Using your platform to speak about this sort of stuff, it's not easy because you also open yourself up to attack from people who disagree with that.
Yeah.
Were you always confident to speak like this publicly?
No. It was probably 2010 is when I've, that was a huge year for me on and off the field. So, yeah, not until I actually delved deeper into my family history, the history of this nation, that I felt comfortable to be able to speak out. But not only that, I feel comfortable in my own skin. So, there's always going to be people that disagree, that are going to take pot shots at you and things like that. But I always rise above, so that I look over the top of them.
You've spoken already a little bit about your 4 daughters. How are you raising them to be proud of their culture too?
Yeah, so they've started to ask questions as well. So they're learning about their totem, they're learning about their tribe, where they're from. So slowly starting to educate them on that. So I know Charlie got me to come into the school and talk about our totem and our culture, where her grandmother's from, my mother. So, they're starting to get inquisitive on that as well. So, when the time's right, when they're a little bit older, I'd love, me mother to take them out to Mitchell and spend a weekend out there and really pass that knowledge on.
You spoke about your childhood being one that, was surrounded by family, playing lots of footy and cricket and all that sort of stuff. And I really like that idea of you were just kids, hey? You never saw each other as different. What values that you learnt from that period in your life are you imparting on your kids?
I think respect. I know growing up as a kid, Mum and everyone would always say, you respect your elders, you respect others. And if we didn't, we got a hiding. I got a good clip around their ear. So, yeah, definitely respect. When Mum and Dad come over, making sure the kids give them a big hug and kiss and that. So, yeah, I just want to be kind as well. There's a lot of pressures on kids nowadays, especially with social media and things like that. So there's a whole nother different barriers and different negatives in life now that we didn't have. So being conscious of that. But yeah, I just respectful and kind. You only get one life. Right, so why sweat the small stuff?
What are their ages again? What's the oldest, youngest?
11, 9, 7 and 5.
So you're not quite at adolescence yet. Having 4 girls too,
4
that's going to
daughters.
be fun. I think my mum and dad would tell you having 2 daughters was enough.
I know, of everyone that I tell I've got 4 daughters, they're like, oh, wait till they hit teenage years. And I'm like, I've got a granny flat.
Are you moving there or you're moving them out there?
I'll definitely be out there, but I won't know any different.
Yeah.
It's not like I can compare them to a son, but it'll be what it is, and no matter what happens, they'll always know that I love them and I'll be there for them.
Are any of them, do they remind you of you at all, or are they more like their mum?
No, my eldest, Frankie, she's definitely like her mother. My second one, Charlie, she's definitely like me. I think that's why we clash a bit, why Frankie and Samantha clash a bit. Lily, so she's only 7, so she just pretty much just follows her sisters around, and Remy's 5, so she pretty much rules the house. How can a 5-year-old rule your household? Well, I know, it's insane. So she's got to fight and scrap for everything, being the youngest. But yeah, it's good fun.
Yeah, and why does Charlie remind you of yourself?
She's pretty stubborn. But when she's sort of naturally gifted as well. I don't think the pennies dropped with her that once she actually puts a bit of effort into what she's doing, what she can achieve. So, yeah, I think when the penny drops for that over the next couple of years, she'll start to really grow and really find out the things that she loves doing.
Do they realise kind of I don't know who you are and what you've achieved yet.
It's funny, Lily brought home an old footy card.
Yeah.
Dad, one of my friends wants you to sign this. So I signed that. So she thought that was pretty cool. But yeah, I think they've got an understanding. I don't think they, that when we're out, people come up for photos and things like that. So they know, but to them, I'm just dad.
Yeah.
Like, I'll give you an example. So Frankie, she had to do this dance routine, and I picked her up, and she just got in the car and was like in tears. Like, I was like, what's wrong? Oh, the dance routine's so hard, I can't do it like this. And I was like, well, Bubba's, like, you've been practicing, you've been rehearsing at home, you've been putting the effort into it. Like, that should give you the confidence to be able to nail the routine. She's like, Dad, this is not footy.
Oh, my
so
goodness.
I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
So
That
this
was
isn't
a
a
stay in your lane
Yeah,
conversation.
so I was like, okay, this is going to be a quiet car ride home. And in my brain, I was just thinking, I can't wait to tell Samantha when I get home.
That's so good.
Yeah,
Do you coach any of their teams?
no, because I'm away
Oh,
a lot.
true. Yeah,
so
yeah.
I can't find the time to be able to do that. But they love dancing.
Beautiful.
All jazz, tap, contemporary, ballet, all of it. They love it. But probably the last 18 months, they've started to get into theatre. So
Nice.
yeah, so they certainly love the stage.
Yeah. I was a drama kid. I was never good at any sport, and it's the best ever.
Yeah, so it's good for their confidence too.
Yeah.
So like, whilst I'm comfortable speaking in front of people now, like as when I was their age, no chance.
Yeah.
But it's been really good to watch them
Yeah.
grow.
Do you like being outnumbered in the house? The only
I've got no choice, really. So, but yeah, I've got a female cat and a female dog. So couldn't even get that right. I know, I couldn't even get, but yeah, it's there's never a dull moment in our household. Like, from the moment the kids wake up till they go to bed, they're just bang bang. They're just it's 100 mile an hour. It's good fun.
How do you think being a dad, and particularly a dad to 4 girls, has changed you as a person?
Oh, I suppose it's changed. Becoming a father, it's that responsibility. It's not just about you now. It's about obviously your daughters or your kids, but you're a family now. So I suppose being in the public eye, you got to be very mindful of where you are and what you're doing. So because being in the public eye, you step out of line, you're on the front page. So they'll see that. So you got to be very mindful. So yeah, it's certainly changed me for the better. I think you'll have to ask my wife. Actually, don't ask her. But I love it. I feel like that's what I was born to do.
Is there anything, about parenthood or raising your girls that frightens you?
I think as parents, we put a lot of pressure on ourselves. We're constantly questioning everything that we're doing. I think it's just parent guilt. But I think that can sort of take you away from those moments in life. Like I was saying before, you get one life. You get an opportunity to create memories with your children. So, with footy, I was always living in the moment. And that's what I try and do in my life now post footy, especially when I'm home. I do get in trouble a bit for being on the phone at home. So that's something that I'm trying to get out of my household. Because the kids are growing up now, and they certainly see you on it. So I wish there was no phones, actually.
Yeah.
So I know that's yeah, like I said, social media, that scares me a bit. The kids getting phones, that scares me. But I'm trying to hold off till they're 16, 17. That's our plan.
I don't think it's going to last that long. And I'll tell you what, as soon as, it's Frankie who's the oldest, as soon as she gets one, it'll be real quick before Charlie does. And then,
I know, so some of her friends have got phones for...
And she's 11?
Different reasons,
Okay, that just feels so
different. Yeah, so, that's what they're doing. But, yeah, for us... If we can get to 16, we'll be happy.
Or just get her an old school Nokia. No Instagram. That's the way to solve that problem.
Yeah, and Snake.
Yes. She'll get caught in class doing that, not looking at Instagram.
But, like I just hope, we're, raising them in a way that, they really think about the decisions that they're making.
Why was it important for you to start the academy?
I've got an academy which is inspiring the next generation of our nation's youth, and got some really good people at the academy, a part of the team that are helping do that as well. So launched the academy in 2018, and I think 14 months ago I had 2 staff, and then now I've got 20 at the moment. So we've grown extremely quickly, but I've got a great team around me that are doing some wonderful things with those young kids, and we work. We've got a program we call a Lead Like a Girl program, where it's an online program that we're running into schools, and that's been highly successful, and NBN has been our major partner of that, and then we're working with youth justice kids as well, so we're starting to see some really good changes in behaviour with some of those kids that we're working with through the programs that our academy and that our staff are running. So I'm proud of what our staff are doing there and how they're changing the behaviours of these young kids for the better.
Can you give us an example of how it's impacted a young person?
So some of the Lead Like a Girl programs, some students, their attendance went from 20 to 80% as well. So we've got some really good testimonials from teacher aides and staff, just the way that the kids that are part of the program, would never acknowledge them in the schoolyard, teachers in the schoolyard. So they're actually having conversations with teachers now. So they're growing that confidence and having that confidence in themselves and that belief in themselves to, that they're worthy and that they can fit in and that they can achieve their dreams as well. So that's been pretty successful.
I mean, it's pretty clear that you really care about the next generation, not only the ones that you're raising at home, but you're doing that in this other work. Why do you feel compelled to do that?
That's what I loved about rugby league was the moments, and for myself, it's, when the game's on the line, that's, I always thought through my preparation that I could, get our team back in the game or close the game out. So when I retired from footy, I was actually quite scared, where am I going to find those moments now? Because I don't have that in my life. I won't have that in my life moving forward. But I remember Ben Cray said to me that you will never get those moments. You need to come to terms with finding different moments in your life. And obviously I find those moments with my kids, but changing that mindset now to find those moments through the success stories of the young people and their lives that we're changing. That's what it's all about. That's
pretty special, and maybe good for other players who are looking down the barrel of retirement, that you can find that magic that you're talking about.
Yeah, definitely. That's I was raw, I was emotional, telling the boys at the end of, the retirement camp pretty much, you do all these different exercises and, sitting with the players that we retired with, I was in tears and quite emotional about it. So, it's about changing your mindset and finding ways to find those moments in your life that matter.
JT, thank you so much for your time. The last thing I wanted to ask you was, and maybe this is a difficult question to answer as well, but what do you want your legacy to be? And maybe you don't have to think too far into the future, but like in 10, 15 years' time, or maybe it's of the academy. What is it that you want it to be?
Yeah, that's what I'm most proud of, what I've achieved. Obviously, my children number one in my life. My family are number one, but for what I've been able to achieve in my life, the academy is what I'm most proud of, because, like I said, rugby league has given me that platform, but through the academy we've able to help change the lives of young people that are doing it tough. So I want that to grow onto a national stage.
Well, I think it's for the betterment of all of us if it does too, to hear what the work that you're doing. Thank you so much for this conversation.
That was quite raw.
Awesome. This was such an insightful chat with the legend that is JT. You can tell how much he loves being a dad, how proud he is of his girls. But I think what's been really interesting for me is to see how in the last couple of years that ferocity and passion in talking about culture and standing up for what is right, speaking out against racism, has become a huge part of his public life, particularly with his organisation, the Johnathan Thurston Academy as well. It was such an amazing chat, and I'm sure 12-year-old Marlee would be freaking out that she got to do that. Thank you for listening to this episode of Marlee Me. If you're enjoying the show, make sure you hit follow wherever you're listening and leave us a review. Tune in to the next episode of Marlee Me, where I sit down with Nathan Cleary.
Yeah, I was just hating myself, really, just regret. The way I reacted after it was what I was most disappointed about. It took me to a place where I wasn't even totally honest with my parents, and that killed them. It was just even thinking back on it now, it was just so stupid.
This year, NRL on 9 is your one-stop shop for all footy.
That's right, Freddie. Not about the highlights. Action. 7 days a week.
Billy and Gus podcast, get that on your drive on the way home. Immortal Behaviour. Grab a seat on the couch for that. And, of course, my favourite, Freddie and the Own.
The best footy brains, the biggest games.
Don't trust the algorithm. Subscribe to NRL on 9 and get all your entertainment there.